These are incredibly popular books, in part because they're books that everybody can relate to. All of us have been bored and all of us have had weird dreams. And Alice is a little girl who, at the beginning of her story, is really bored, who has these two very strange dreams in which there are aspects of her everyday life, aspects of the world that we recognise, that we share with Alice, but that get really mixed up in quite strange and interesting ways with completely different things. So these are dream worlds which do still have some kind of connection to a world that we can recognise and are all the more strange actually for that reason. What Lewis Carroll is trying to do here is to reproduce the experience of dreaming, where really quite strange things and combinations of things occur, but that when they happen to us in dreams, they don't actually seem that out of the way or unusual, and we just kind of get on with our dream, just like Alice gets on with her adventures and keeps on going and doesn't sort of say, hang on a second, this is very peculiar, this surely couldn't happen. Although she does think that occasionally, most of the time, she's kind of quite open to these experiences in a way that many dreamers are. A really brilliant thing about the Alice books is their varied cast of characters. There are some incredible characters that we and Alice encounter, from a baby that turns into a pig to an incredibly ferocious Queen of Hearts, not to mention a garden of live flowers. Nothing particularly special perhaps about a garden of live flowers. All flowers are alive, but these ones can talk. Most of the things that Alice encounters in her adventures can talk. Legs of mutton and chess pieces and eggs, as well as the animals that she meets who can also talk to her. Some of my personal favourites are the very stressed pigeon and a chicken-sized gnat. A gnat is a very, very small fly. So the fact that this one is the size of a chicken gives you the sort of idea of what often happens in these books, which is that things change shape often and size. Quiet things can become very loud, loud things can become very quiet, and things can appear and disappear in a very similar way to the experiences that we often have when we are dreaming. All the way through both of the Alice books, you get loads of wordplay and nonsense, and this is what provides a huge amount of the humour in these books. This often comes from particular sentences, but also from particular situations that Alice finds herself in. So she arrives in a trial where you get the verdict before you get the evidence, which is a little bit like getting the sort of score of a football match before you've played the game. The language and the words that we all use can be understood in very different ways. The slipperiness of language, the fact that language is very, very open to interpretation and misunderstanding. So, for example, when Alice meets the mouse, when he's talking about his tail, as in his story, she thinks he's talking about his tail, as in the thing that sticks out from behind him. And this obviously causes quite a lot of confusion. These are words that you might have already come across, and they're called homonyms. And that's a word like a knot, which the mouse gets in his tail, his actual tail. And again, this causes lots of confusion because Alice confuses this with the knot, as in he is not doing something. So this kind of thing, axes and axes, lessons and lessons, are things that happen all the way through the books and which do cause lots of problems for Alice in her encounters with these characters. Some of the characters that Alice meets have a very creative attitude towards language. They basically reject what we usually understand words to mean and come up with their own meanings for words, like important meaning unimportant or unimportant meaning important, which, as you can see from that kind of reversal of the meaning of a word, can make it quite tricky to have conversations. If there's no sort of agreement as to what a word means, then it's really difficult to actually find any common ground and to understand each other. And this is one of the main problems that Alice has in her journeys, both through Wonderland and in Looking Glass World. Alice has conversations with characters and indeed herself all the way through these books. And Lewis Carroll is really careful in the way that he writes down these conversations. They often read a little bit like a script in a play. And by that I mean that when we read about these conversations happening, Carroll gives us information not just about what the characters say, but about how they say it. He tells us about the tone of their voice, so whether they talk in a calm tone or if they're more angry. He will explain to us whether they're whispering or whether they're shouting. As we're reading the books, we can also hear what it is and how the characters are talking to each other, and it makes it easier for us also to read these lines out loud. These are often really quite difficult experiences and adventures for Alice. They're not that much fun for her, but there's an awful lot to keep the reader, on the other hand, entertained. There's quite a lot of humour, often through wordplay and through jokes that come about because of how difficult it is to get to grips with words and with language. There are lots of jokes in these books to keep the reader entertained. So, for example, when the King of Hearts tells the Hatter not to be nervous, or he'll have him executed on the spot, it's not exactly the most reassuring of comments. This is the kind of dark humour that we get a lot of in these books. There are quite a lot of references to people being killed or dying, or the jokes that are being made are often a little bit scary too.